One afternoon, a mother is cooking lunch for her 6-year-old daughter while she plays in the back. Everything seems to be normal until the mother turns towards the sink and sees that it is black and ashy. That sink needs some lotion. She takes more than a second to comprehend what she is seeing, then starts looking around the kitchen. To her utter surprise, the entire place looks to be burnt down like an aftermath of a bad fire. Her instincts make her quickly turn towards her daughter, but the little girl who was there only a second ago is missing. The mother panics and runs towards the bedroom, only to meet with another surprise. Her 6-year-old has gone back in time and turned into her 3-year-old self alongside the room, which is also changed into its older form. The mother cries out loud and runs outside the house to see a group of people watching her apartment building in awe. Like the kitchen, the entire building seems to be burnt, but without fire. It seems as if the whole town is teleported to a few years back because the exact same fire accident has taken place in the past. Suddenly, the building flickers and the people gasp. Everything starts coming back to normal. Right after, the little girl turns back into her 6-year-old self. The residents do not waste time before calling the police to investigate the abnormal activities. Then, we are introduced to an FBI detective, Olivia. She and her team investigate the scene and realize that some parts of the house are completely fine, without the trace of any burn marks, while the others are fully destroyed by a fire. Upon looking at several records of the place, they also discover that the building had caught fire 3 years ago and looked exactly how it looks currently. It is almost as if some parts of it teleported back in time. This theory is supported by the mother from earlier, who reveals that her daughter was 3 years old when the last fire occurred, and she too teleported in time earlier. Detective Olivia is intrigued, but not shocked by the situation. This is because she has witnessed such activities several times in the last week. They use a special neuroradiation device around the place. If the levels are high, it means the surroundings have traveled or will travel through time. At night, in another part of the city, a group of youngsters are driving through a forest to a party. It is a casual night until suddenly, a moving train appears in front of their car. They immediately stop, closely avoiding crashing with the train. Upon getting out, they see the train flickering and then disappearing entirely. The group is left stunned with no way to confirm what they just saw, but they can all agree they should probably stop smoking that Chiba. The following day, Olivia's colleague Detective Peter hears the news about the train's appearance. He gets ready to walk out of the station and a second later, magically appears in the location. Other police officers are working on the scene but do not notice him appearing out of thin air. A confused Peter barely knows how he got here and continues investigating. He seems to have time traveled as the house did earlier. Olivia is also at the scene talking to the guy who saw the train. He vows that he wasn't high, and confirms seeing a sphere bubble around the train when it passed. This is especially strange because the track was closed 3 years ago, and no train has passed through it since. Peter checks the surroundings with a neuroradiation testing device and sees the front part of the youngster's car has changed because it touched the bubble around the train last night. The bumper is so delicate that when Peter touches it, a piece crumbles into his hands. Peter turns around to tell his colleagues about the car when suddenly he appears inside a car, driving to the railway location with them. He understands that he traveled into the future when he was walking out of the station earlier and has returned to the original time now. The phenomenon is strange and Peter has no clue why it's happening to him, but he refrains from asking for help from Olivia. When his colleagues notice the change in his demeanor, they ask him what is wrong. Peter recovers by telling them that their car has high levels of neuroradiation. This is highly unnatural, which means these time events are being caused by some kind of human technology. Olivia hardly believes Peter, but she has nothing else to work with at the moment. The scene cuts to a house. Professor Kate is passionately working on building an equation like she does every day. Friggin' nerd. For the past decade, she has been working to develop a device that travels through time, and in recent years, she is very close to developing a principal formula for it. Her husband Raymond loves his wife and supports her in all of her decisions, but doesn't like that she overworks herself. He comes towards her, looking at the timer in his watch. Strangely enough, he holds Kate endearingly and wishes her goodbye. Less than a second later, she disappears from his arms, and her work from the wall is also gone. Raymond simply walks into the living room like he was expecting that to happen. Surprisingly enough, Kate is on the sofa, staring at the wall. When her husband tries to feed her, she jerks away, asking him who he is. It is then revealed that Kate has Alzheimer's, and the person Raymond was talking to earlier was her from the past. When she first started losing her senses, Kate was very close to creating creating a time machine. However, she failed because the disease got the best of her. Raymond was devastated when his wife stopped recognizing him and wanted to get her back to normal. One day, he got his hands on her research and found a way to turn back time. He worked hard for a year and proved that Kate's study was successful. He could now make their home go back in time, but only for 47 minutes. Currently, it is 2021, but the house Kate and Raymond live in is mostly in 2017, when Kate is still healthy. The reason strange time-related occurrences are happening throughout the city is also because of the same thing. When Raymond bent time for the first time, it left an unnatural amount of neural radiation in different parts of the city, which is why they have been going back and forth in time for the past month. Somewhere else, Peter, Olivia, and their colleagues are trying to find a relationship between the locations of the time shifts that have occurred up until now. After looking at the map for hours, they realize that the occurrences follow Fibonacci's golden spiral. This means that they are all friggin' nerds. This means that they should check areas that fall in the 3 square miles area of the center to find the source of the abnormalities. Back in the house, Raymond takes care of Kate, who frantically talks about going out to shop for Christmas. Raymond cannot handle his wife being so out of touch with reality and decides to bend time again. He walks into the basement, which he has turned into his lab. It contains several failed devices and projects, proving how hard he has worked for the past years. He walks up to the machine that actually works and presses a few buttons. This starts the machine and sets the timer. For the next 47 minutes, their entire house will go back to being in 2017. Raymond goes back up and sees his wife working on her research once again. This time, she smiles at him and asks him to take his pills. The man has walked up to her doing the same thing several times, but his heart still skips a beat when he hears her talking normally. They joke around like a normal couple. At the same time, Peter and Olivia start their search for the center of the spiral. They locate several houses and ask the residents if they have noticed anything strange happening around the area. Most people report having a feeling of deja vu, but nothing significant is found. A few minutes into the search, Peter's friend reaches close to Raymond and Kate's residence. As he walks onto the lawn, he bursts into ash and disappears. This is because any sudden appearance in the time field messes with the subject and crushes it. Olivia sees her friend disappearing and quickly contacts the rest of the group. In the next few minutes, an entire team of agents appears in front of the house, looking for a way to get inside. Raymond notices the cars approaching from the window and starts to panic. He wants to turn the machine off, but if it is done hastily, it might ruin the entire fabric of space-time. Moreover, once the machine is turned on, Raymond doesn't have the formula to turn it off, as he has been letting it run fully until now. Now, the only way to not get caught is to make the time shift permanent, and for that, Raymond needs his wife's help. He pulls a confused Kate into the basement and frantically shows her around. She doesn't remember anything about the future, hence, the place and her husband's ramble confuse her. Then, finally, Raymond tells her that he worked for 3 years on her project and made a time machine. He calls her a genius and asks her to help him make it permanent so they can live together forever. Kate, still confused about everything, claims that her project was supposed to remain a theory because she never wanted to break the rules of nature. However, Raymond argues that she has done a lot for him in her life, and the only way for him to give back to her is by saving her. The entire rest of the population of the world be damned. His words freeze Kate, and she asks what will happen to her in the future. She finds out about the Alzheimer's disease, but still wants Raymond to stop the time travel. Outside, Olivia comes close to the house and sprays a chemical on it. In the correct lighting, a giant time bubble can be seen covering the entire property. Olivia doesn't dare walk inside, having seen what happened to her colleague earlier. Simultaneously, Peter continues studying the areas around the house to predict where the next time relapse is going to take place. To his horror, the very next area targets an underground tunnel that did not exist 4 years ago. If the time relapse occurs and the tunnel disappears, hundreds of people inside it would drown and die. One of them immediately runs to get the area evacuated, while the others continue trying to get into the house to stop the machine. In the following scene, Peter's scientist friend builds a magnetic vest that reflects the radiation when one is inside the time zone. Olivia argues that she wants to go inside, but Peter, who has a scientific background, is tasked with the job. Everyone holds their breath when he takes the first step inside the bubble. Thankfully, the vest works, and he simply walks into the house. Will his sperm ever be the same though? He soon finds the basement, but is hit in the head before turning the machine off. Kate doesn't approve of her husband doing such things, but Raymond argues that he is doing all of this for her. At the same time, the tunnel inside the river starts disappearing. People watch in awe as water starts flowing in, disobeying every rule of physics. Back at the house, the husband and wife get into an argument because Kate doesn't want him to throw his life away getaway living in a bubble with her. They do not notice Peter waking up in the background and are shocked when he points a bat at them. He tries turning the machine off, but is stopped because turning it off in a hurry would mean a rip in the fabric of space-time. Peter tells the couple about the tunnel and how hundreds of people are going to die if the machine continues working. Kate immediately agrees to turn it off, but only if her husband won't be prosecuted for his deeds. In the time of emergency, Peter prioritizes people's lives and agrees to negotiate the terms with the officials. When there are only 1.5 minutes left on the machine and the tunnel is about to flood, Kate completes the equation. The time bubble around the house disappears, the tunnel is saved, and Kate goes back to being sick. The following day, the house is cleared up, and as per the negotiation, Raymond is set free to be a lunatic elsewhere. After everything ends, he goes back to Kate's book, hoping to try and rebuild the formula again. However, he sees that she has painted over the formula to disallow him from making the same mistake again. In the final scene, Raymond reads a message where Kate asks him to repay her by loving her and living his life fully. Good thing Raymond has a crap memory. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.